Hi, Shannon here with Sizzlen Stampers again. For our spring retreat, this next project uses the Dress to Impress stamp set, and it's also going to use the coordinating framelet dies. So when I first got this set of framelet dies, they were tucked pretty close together, like you can see here, to the point that I thought I was missing dies. So make sure that you have two pieces in your framelets. They're going to have the strap, the shoe, the lipstick, the strap you use for making the purse handle or backpack straps, and the little images, the perfume, the flowers. Those match the stamps in the stamp set. You have buckles, buttons, some labels, and then of course the big die in this set is the one that cuts the purse or the backpack or the tote, whatever type of bag you're making. So for today's project, I went ahead and pre-cut those out. Now I am using some designer series paper from the Floral Essence suite. It's the one that's got the watercolor Monet looking patterns. When you go to cut it, you want to have two identical pieces. I know you might automatically think you need to do opposites, but for the project to work the right way, you need both of your pieces to be identical. So you can see here I've cut them, and I'm going to use the blue watercolor style print side for my bag that we're going to make. Now, the purse is designed to coordinate with the 3x3 perfume note card set that was a previous project during the retreat. So you can find that in a different video of mine. We're going to make sure that, like I said, both sides are the same, and you lay them out side by side in order to start creating the purse. When the die cuts out on your paper, it creates for you scoring lines and perforations. I previously really wanted to do these purses out of the Very Vellum designer paper to match exactly back to the perfume note cards. And these are the note cards that you can see right here. And I will put in the link to that particular video so you can match those two up. But when I went to cut the die out, the vellum is far too delicate and fragile to use with this particular die system. It just fell apart. As you can see, it cut through on the score and the perforation lines. So I went back and found a designer series paper that I had on hand that I thought would really look nice with those same colors that are featured in that vellum. The seafoam, the mint, and the, oh sorry, not the mint. The seafoam, the pool party, and the heather or purple posy. So don't try to make it with a lightweight, very delicate paper. It will not work. Now, to begin, you're going to lay the purse pieces. You need two for this particular project. You're going to lay them side by side. Same look. And see how that looks, because you're going to notice that you're going to have lines that you need to line up. You're also going to go through and all of those hard lines that you see embedded into your designer paper, those are your score lines. Just the score lines, the harder ones. There are also perforation lines. You're not going to fold those. So you're just going to start, and on each of those edges you have skinny ones, you have bottom pieces that create the flaps on the bottom of the purse box. So I'm going to do each of those on both pieces. Now you'll notice there's this inside score line. I want to fold that one on each purse, but the next one on the small triangle, as I call it, that's a perforation line. So for this project, we're going to be making it into the purse. So you're going to actually slightly pinch those perforation lines to come up to you like a mountain. If you were doing the backpack style, you would fold them the opposite direction, going away from you, so that they would go in like a valley, and that would create that more narrow backpack look. But for the purse that I'm doing today, I'm going to do the perforation coming up to me like a mountain. Once you've done all your folding and your slight indentation on the perforation, you're going to take your tear tape and we're going to run that down each of those two skinny sides. So make sure as you're doing your tear tape, you can use the multi-purpose liquid glue. It will take longer to dry. I don't recommend the Snell for any of my box building. Personally, for me, I really love the tear tape. It's simple and it's sturdy and it holds. So you're taking that tear tape down both of those skinny sides. You have to really make sure that you get your tear tape from edge to edge when you're doing box building. It's important so that you don't have any piece where the designer paper is missing, because then it won't hold and it gives it a little, just enough air time to pull itself apart. Oh, see, I didn't get quite enough, so let me tear another little piece of tape. It's the other thing I like about the tear tape. I don't even need scissors for it. You just literally tear it with your fingers. Now, you're going to be lining that skinny side up, and I'm going to use my pick tool end. So the U-pick tool, and I have the piercer on one end. You can also use a paper piercer, you can use a blade of your scissor, whatever, and then you're going to line that up very carefully. Try to be as exact as you can. You want to match that outside purse to that hard score line on the other side to get the best fit on your purse. So again, using your pick tool, paper piercer, a knife, a scissor blade, whatever you use, you're going to pull that top layer of your tear tape off. And you're going to kind of start to fold it and look at it, and then kind of play with those flaps and bring them up. So when I first built this, I tried to do the two sides first, but I quickly decided that I need to bend it into place first. And then I want to go ahead and take off that bottom flap tear tape, because I want to put the bottom flap together before I do the final closure on the other side. It just for me, it was easier to build that way. You may build it a different way, but this will at least give you an idea on what the steps are and kind of some tips along the way for you to build. So just remember that as you're box building, try to fold and play with the paper as little as you can. So sometimes I will practice on a scrap paper first so that I understand how to build the box. Because on box building, if you play with your paper too much, it breaks the paper down and then it doesn't want to hold those crisp lines in it. So while I'm working to get that box, and I might have gotten out of my camera view, sorry. But there you can kind of see down into the inside of it. Now I'm going to take something, I'm using my multi-purpose glue. You could take a weight, anything that has a little weight. A stamp block is perfect, and press down there. And I want those little edges to perforate and come out a little bit, because I'm going to put the 3x3 note cards in there and we need it to have the width. So the next step I'm going to go ahead and do is using my 1/8 circle punch, and I'm going to probably punch 2 or 3 little holes right together that are all touching. I'm going to put a hole, and you notice that I am just eyeballing that. If you want to measure it and use your grid paper or a ruler to go so far down, feel free. That's just not how I work. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay that aside for now. We'll do the handle and finish that up in a bit. The next part we're going to do is the front decor. So I'm using a piece of the petal pink cardstock and the pretty label punch. I'm just going to punch that out and set that aside. Next, we're going to get out the Dress to Impress, the stamp set, the perfume from the stamp set. And I'm going to use the Memento black ink again, because I'll be using the blends, the Stampin' Up! Blends, and that is the best ink to use with those alcohol markers. And I'm doing it on some shimmer white cardstock, just to give a little shimmer. If you don't have shimmer white, you can always use Whisper White, and if you have a Wink of Stella, you can do that to give a little bit more shimmer and shine. So just stamp the perfume bottle straight onto your shimmer white cardstock, set that aside. going to flip out stamps, and I'm going to use the double floral, the one that has the big floral and the little bud. Stamp that on some shimmer white cardstock scrap. And then the last stamp that I'm going to use is the Hello Fabulous. And I'm going to stamp that on the label. You're going to notice I'm going to stamp it toward the top and over to the right. That looks weird as is, but because I know I'm going to put my perfume bottle and flowers up in there, it's going to come out and kind of create that triangle that I'm always looking for. So next step, whatever blend colors that you want to color with, I'm going to use, probably to start, the Petal Pink and the Balmy Blue, because they kind of coordinate back to that designer series paper. And they will also go nicely with the 3x3 note cards that are going to be put in the set, even if they don't match exact. It brings in that same Balmy Blue, which is in the similar color family and tone. So just color those quickly using some Old Olive for my leaves. I'm going to go back in with, I think I'll do the Daffodil Delight and add some yellow to really pull out. There's a little bit of yellow. I don't know that you can see it on the camera on that designer paper, but I'm going to pull that out. But that yellow and blue, the soft yellow and blue, are nice complements to the Seafoam, Pool Party, and Purple Posy that are on those perfume note cards. So again, just I'm quickly coloring in, and you'll notice I'm just doing very little coloring. And in this scenario, I am really using my blends more as a traditional marker to color. I'm not really doing any of the fancy blending. Tiny bit maybe on those flowers, but really not traditional blending. On the perfume bottle, again, I'm just coloring it in, just little bits and pieces to give it a little bit of color to stand out on the purse. So I'm going to use the light Balmy Blue first, which is most often how I blend. I typically use the light color and then go back with my dark colors. There are certain projects I do the reverse, but most of the time I go light to dark. I'm going to go back in with the dark and kind of just get some highlights and shadowing onto that perfume bottle without doing a lot of real blending. Then I think I'll take the Balmy Blue and go back in. I want a little bit more color, I think, on the bottle. Still want to leave a little bit of white on the top so it pulls back down into the base of the bottle. And I think I'm going to pull back in a little bit more of that dark blue that I used into the flowers. Now I'm just going to fussy cut those out. Now, you can use the perfume bottle if you have the dies. There is a die that would cut the perfume bottle. For me, when I'm doing just a single card or a video, for me it's just as fast to use my scissors. You know, I love the paper snips with the curved blade for fussy cutting. They're super easy. But when I'm when I'm making more than 1 or 2 cards, I would rather have the die, and I'll get out the die and die cut it. But for this, we're just going to fussy cut that perfume bottle. For the straight cutting, I tend to just use my big straight edge paper scissors, just everyday scissors. But any real cutting that I want to do, ribbon is great with the paper snips, and then the curved cutting. You'll want to have 2 different pair of scissors. You do not want to cut your ribbon with the same scissor as your paper, because paper tends to dull the blade. And you want sharp blades for cutting ribbon. It's just like having fabric scissors versus paper scissors. So I'm cutting around the second little flower, and I'll have that cut out in just a second. And then we will go back to completing the task of making the bag. We'll get it all decorated here. So I'm going to kind of look at how do I want those pieces to lay. I'm going to play with that before I start attaching things to my bag. I want to still create the odd numbers, so like 3 items. I want to kind of create a triangle for your eye movement on it. And for these, I'm not going to use dimensionals, even though I love them, but we're talking about the front of a little bag, so I'm going to flat adhere them on. And I think before I finish it, I'm going to go ahead and put the handle on. So for this, of course, I'm using one of my favorite ribbons out of the catalog, which is the Petal Pink Striped Organdy ribbon. And I'm going to just pop the end through there. Now you could cut matching straps out of using the die out of the same paper, and you would adhere it in. I just like the ribbon. I just love the look of it, and for this project especially, it brings that organdy sheerness kind of brings together the vellum, that sheer piece on the vellum. So I've got both of my ends through, and now I'm going to go in and I'm going to tie a knot in the very end. I'm going to get that pretty tiny, but not so tiny it's going to pull back through. I just want to get it tiny enough so hopefully my tails on those knots aren't showing. And then just do the same on the other side. Tie another little knot, pull it tight, and pull through tight so you have a little handle. As I'm going, I'm just thinking I don't have my glue dots laying out here. Before I would give this to someone, I would probably take a mini glue dot and put on the back of those ribbon tails and attach the tail to the inside of the bag so that way you don't have to worry about it popping up. For now, we're going to just go ahead and adhere the perfume bottle where I want it, and then I'm going to do the same with the double flowers. Again, like I said, kind of creating that triangle effect. And voila. And you can see how that purse has some give on the sides due to the perforation. And that's where these 3 cards that you made in the previous project video, those 3x3 note cards will all fit in there, as well as a matching envelope for them. Isn't that cute? You'd be perfect for right now. You could hang that on someone's doorknob and leave it as a surprise for them, or May Day, Mother's Day, anytime you want to give a little gift. So
move my camera, please.
hopefully that recorded.